to look behind you. The beast inside your head. Can't get rid of me till you're dead. Haunting your dreams under your bed. Won't stop until you see red. Transform, take over and blind you. Don't forget to look behind you.
Alright, it's time to get this stream started. Hopefully everyone's had a good week. Friday night now. Just readjusting some of my settings here. It's been a minute. And then I'm going to get into my Dark Tower Defense game in gdevelop. Day 31 of development. So I've crossed the 1 month line of actual days working on it. Now, October 4th, lots of Halloween stuff coming out now. Actually passed on joining a basically Halloween-themed game jam this weekend. It was tempting to, but game jams are like my guilty fix, and they take away from my much-needed true development time on my actual game. So I'm passing on the game jams this month. But I'll be interested to see the results. gdevelop was hosting one at least, but I know there are several more out there. This particular game started as a game jam concept, and I'm seeing it through to fruition. So some good does come from the jams, but right now I just need to spend quality time here on my project. And so I think the last thing I worked on here was just toying around with a little sprite that I'm going to use for water. And it's not final, but it's just a little animation. I don't particularly like it. Something is wrong with the animation, but if I can do something like this, it's going to shoot out along the pathway, and it's going to slow down the enemies as they try to traverse over it. So I got to get it working right. I'm less concerned about the art at the moment and more concerned with the functionality. So that's one of the things I'm going to work on here tonight. And then I'll probably also work on getting my life together. No, I'll work on probably throwing together like a quick splash page that will be sort of a level up menu. And essentially, it's just going to be a level up menu, exactly like it sounds, where you click on the buttons and it upgrades particular variables. And I just want to get something set up to where that functionality exists. So, making progress. tweak this lighting a little bit. Maybe this needs to come up. Can't fix ugly. Alrighty. Let's actually build a game here now. So, what is this object called? I better actually do a little cleanup here first. Let's make this a bit bigger. Something like that. And yeah, I better do some organization over here with all of my objects because I added a whole lot recently, so I need to move these text objects into my UI folder. Barriers, buttons, enemies, loot, text objects. So right here. And again, hopefully everyone's been having a good week so far. First week into October, and it's kind of crazy how fast time is flying by. But for anyone who's not working the weekend, hopefully can get some rest, catch up, rejuvenate, hit next week strong. And for those of you working this weekend, thank you for doing so. Keeping the world moving for the rest of us lazy people. All right, any more text objects to put in here? I think that was it. I thought I had a generic UI folder in here somewhere, but I have buttons. Because buttons would fall under that. Text objects. I might need to make a generic UI folder, but we'll see. I'm going to move the enemy UI and parchment. So parchment is not currently in use, but enemy UI is. I'm going to drag that up. Move this up to the enemies folder. And I guess just put it here in the main part of their folder. Then I had several particles that I added. So we had, there's this water and water border. I'm going to move those into the towers folder. So let me drag that down. It's actually quite a bit I need to move in here. So we have tower objects. So leaf spray center can go in there. Level origin point. Don't need that in there. Light block. What is a light block? What in the world? I don't even know what some of these objects are. So, yeah. Did you add any hours to it? Okay. All right, I'll come check on it. Okay. I tell you people, take any time off of your project, it's harder to get back into it. Just takes more time to remember where you left off and where you put things and etc. So, which is why I said I'm not doing the game jam. Alright, towers. I need to put all my junk back in here from whence it came. And let's see. Lamp, flame, particle, sludge, particle, big black ring. Some of the naming conventions on here are wild. Particle, big black ring. Just heard a noise like a mouse. Meteor, ground, flame. That can go in the tower folder, so let me drag the tower folder back down. Where is it? Right here. So, tower objects. I guess the tower base and the indicator could go in there. Then I'm gonna move the meteor, ground, flame into there. Particle shards. I'm gonna have to see what this particle is. I should have named these a little more clearly back in the day whenever I made these, because I don't know which objects these belong to. So that is an enemy. And pretty sure that's kind of rough on the FPS, but let's check. The FPS should be around 60. The FPS is kind of all over the place, isn't it? It's bouncing anywhere from 30 to 60. Definitely have some optimization to go, but I wonder if I remove that particle emitter that I just added, and what does that look like? See if there's much of a difference here. Yeah, I'd say there's a difference. It's still bouncing around. Maybe it's getting worse. Yeah, it's still bouncing from about 30 to 60. So I guess I cannot blame it on that. What if I remove the water thing? A little trial and error here. See if we can figure out what's making it drop to 30 every now and then. Testing. It wasn't the water either. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to figure it out later. So let's keep cleaning up our objects over here, make it just a lot easier to actually get into the workflow. I'm going to close that folder, collapse it at least. What else do we have? Arcane particle light. Let's put that into tower objects. Willow orb. The willow orb is something I added but have not used yet, so I'm not going to put it anywhere. Fire zone, spark particles. That can go into tower objects. Armageddon smoke can go into tower objects. Lots of things here. The Armageddon ability can go into tower objects, along with the light that would back it up. And I need to move these particles here. The rain. What does that even look like? I've already forgotten what this particle does. Tell you, it's been a minute. Okay, there it is. So I think that pops out of an enemy whenever they're being hit by the water tower. So I guess that could go under the tower folder. That'd be fine. It could also go under the enemies. But better to put it into at least one of those rather than none or neither. I have two different raindrops here. Raindrop light, flame smoke, flame light, lightning texture. I have a particle emitter called lightning texture. What is this? Why would I call it texture? Because it's not a texture object. What happens if I set this to -1 and slow down the flow of particles here to like, I don't know, 2 per second? What in the world does this look like? What is this object? It's actually kind of cool, but I do not remember adding this in. I guess I'll just rename it particle lightning sprite, something like that. And I'll leave it outside of the folder for now because I don't know what it's for. So what else can I do here? Water beam light. This can go into the tower folder. Water beam particle. Meteor ground fire can go in there. Okay, that's a star. I can move the black hole particles in here. All right, I'm going to move this folder back up top. I think I'm done with it for now. And I think I want to add a new folder here. So I'm going to call it, I'll call it UI. And I think I actually want to add a couple folders inside of it. So I'm going to move buttons inside of there. And text objects as well. TU. And then I'm going to add a folder inside of there. I'm going to call that one I guess, abilities panel. And then I have a couple of objects to put in there. A few objects, rather. Alright, leaf, icon. I need to move the full moon in there. That's good. Move that back up here. Alright, that's not bad. I guess the ground image can go just in the UI folder directly. Let's see what else. Flat heart bar. I'm not really using this, but I'll go ahead and drop it in there for now. What else do we have here? Shape painters. The end. The end would be... It's not a tower, and it's not an enemy. It's kind of its own thing. It'd be more like... I don't even know what to call it. It'd be like scene architecture. And I guess these barriers would actually go inside of that. And then additionally add... Oops. Did not mean to do that. Did not mean to do that. So let's rename this one to... I guess spawn points. Not sure what this red one is, but I'll throw it in there for good luck. I'll throw the end in there all by itself. There's a level origin point. I guess I'll toss that in there as well. Effects, layer, sprite. Don't think I need this either. I was using it to test something on. Alright, I can move these light objects in there. So let me add a scene architecture. Let me add a folder inside of here. Call it lights. So inside of the lights folder, let me add, I guess, new light, lamp ambient light, lamp light flicker, that flicker effect on the main lamp source. Then what else? I guess this effects layer sprite can go in there. Projectile light, don't know about that. The border, and that can go in there by itself. Borders, probably going to end up deleting these things. So enemy spawner basic needs to go in there. And enemy spawner red needs to go in there. Check a message here. All right, stand by, folks. And I am back. Sometimes you gotta take care of some stuff. Shocking, I know. Words of wisdom. Alrighty. Alright, that's enough cleaning up. I want to do some development now. So let me make sure my folders are in order though. Yeah, that's much shorter list now of objects out here in the main panel. So I like that. Let me just drag this into alphabetical order. Enemy, loot, ELS to you. That will work. What kind of music am I even playing? Got like a Halloween playlist going on Stream Tunes right now. All right, so what I want to test first, I think, is just simply having the tower shoot this out at the location of an enemy. And actually first I want to test, I'm just going to place it on the path where the enemy will travel. And then basically I could either reverse the path of the enemy at the time, or I could just simply stop the enemy. So yeah, a decision needs to be made there. Let me just try. I need to make an event. So what is that thing called? I think it's just called water. Let me call it like water barrier. Something like that. Hit apply. And then yeah, let's make a scene event here, and it'll be I guess it'll be under the event that checks for enemies on the scene. So let's go to the number of enemies on the scene, and we will add a new event here. So Shift A, add that up above. Let's add a comment. Call this water enemy and water barrier. I guess I can make this kind of a blue. Apply. And then let's do if the number of these things on the scene is greater than 0. And then we will do if the enemies let's see, point inside object. We could do a point inside the object, or we could do, see, you don't want to use collision checks too often. They're kind of expensive performance wise. I'm not sure how costly point inside object is. I don't think it's as bad. I could also do distance to the object. Let's do point inside object. So the X position of the point. Let me think here. How do I do this? Test if a point is inside the object collision masks. So I think so this would be enemy barriers. Center X. I think that's what it's looking for. I haven't used this in a while. Okay, and so let's see. If center X and center Y is inside of no, I messed this up. Enemy barriers. That's not right at all. Enemy backers. Alright, yeah, so if the enemy center X and center Y is inside of... This needs to be inside of water. That's more like it. So if this is the case, then we will say enemy we could simply stop the object. Let's test that out. Let's give that a test. So I'm hoping they're going to cross right over this. They're kind of going exactly around it. All right, and so let me make this more simple for myself. Let me show the barriers so that I can see. Let me think. What level are we on? Okay, that's the one I need. I mean, that should have done the trick. Let's put it right here. I think that they have to touch it here. If this doesn't work, then I'll need to tweak some things. Yeah, that definitely did not work. All right, let me see about... Let me search the word move here. Because I'm wondering if I have the visual part of the enemies moving or the backing sprite. Let's see. All right, where did I tell the enemies to start moving? So that would be... Let me search end. Right here. So move enemies. I think that's the issue. So... Alright. That's the issue right there. So I need to move... or rather stop the movement of the enemies, which is actually the visual part. It'd probably be most helpful in the long run if I actually reverse this, because it'd be easiest to not use the particle emitters as much as the backing sprite. But that does tell me what I need to change here, so let me just change that. It should be linked. Let me double check on the enemy creation, but I think it's that the backing sprite is linked to the particle emitter. Link. Are they not linked? So we stuck the... Stuck the backing sprite to the particle emitter. But I never linked it, which is interesting. I thought that I had. But I guess that's fine. So in that case... Let me come back to here, and then I'll say, let me add a sub event. We will say, if the enemy backer is stuck to the enemy, the particle emitter part, then I also need to change this part here. So let me think. Does a particle emitter have a center point? That I don't know. If it doesn't throw an error, then maybe I'm in luck. So if the enemies, the particle emitter is inside of the water barrier, then if enemy backers stuck to enemies, actually I don't even think I need that. No. If this works, I won't need that at all. Let me disable that. And then I would just say stop enemies. Alright, let's give that a test. I'm not totally confident, but we'll give it a shot. Gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable. Alright, next wave. Here we go. Definitely not. Now let's do distance then. Let's try distance. Let me delete this. I'm going to actually duplicate this. Like that. I'll disable one of them. Then we'll say enemies distance to the water is, let's say 20 pixels. And then delete the original event. And give that a test. Of course, it spawned the slowest enemies I have. Okay, it does not like this. Let me... Let me open up the debugger and let me also tell this to write a message to the console. And I will say blah, which will tell me that it is, that the event it's triggering is true. So I'm going to look down here on the bottom section and see if we get any of those messages. We are getting them. Well, we did there for a moment. So for at least some of them, it is registering as true, but it is not stopping the enemies. So I think I know a workaround. Instead of telling it to stop the enemy here, I need to create a group variable. I've got a solution here. So let's go to the groups, enemies, variables. Let me add I guess stopped as a Boolean. And then I will say right here, so enemies, variable, stopped would be set to true. And then here I would say the inverse of this would be to set it to false. So if the enemy distance to the water is below 20 pixels, then I guess I would also say if the variable of stopped is false, then change it to true, and then similarly here, if it's true, we'll set it to false. Okay. Then down below, wherever I actually tell the enemies to move, we'll just do a variable check. So let me find where that is again. Right here. So this is right about here. That is under enemy movement and death. So if the speed of the enemies is equal to 0. So right here, let me do another variable check. Excuse me. So if stopped is false, me paste that into both of these. Now let's test this out. And hopefully I get some progress here. Need a win. It is not winning. Not winning, people. Even though the event is still showing as true. So what is going on there? Think. Let's run it again, and I'm going to look at the variables for the enemies. So let's get them spawned in. And I will, let's see, refresh. Okay, and then pause. I'm going to pause it right there, refresh. And then scroll down to the enemies. And let's look at their variable here. So we have frozen is false. Where is my variable? Has bubble, being hit, ID, on fire, has flame particles, frozen, has frozen particles, freeze immune. So I know I added the variable to the group. But why does it not show up here? That's weird. I never realized group variables don't show up here. I wonder if that's just me or if that's normal. Let me do a little do a little search here. So gdevelop group variables, and that would be in the inspector. Sometimes you've got to reference the documentation and or the forums. Now this is from about a year and a half ago, so I'm not sure this is actually super relevant, but let's see. Okay, not super helpful. Did I create the variable properly? Let me double check that. Close the preview. Go to enemies, variables. Stopped. There are variables used in events but not declared, such as enemy is in border. Okay, well that's unrelated. How odd. That's very odd. There is one other thing I could try, because I guess I didn't explicitly tell it to stop. I just said to move the object if the variable is not false. So kind of hard to explain, but let me just try explicitly stopping it. So right about here. Right here, let me add a thing. So if the variable stopped of enemies is true, then let's just say stop the enemy. Stop the object. Let's try that. Still not sure why the group variable doesn't show up for the object. Nope, nothing. All right. Let me further test this by manually adding the variable to one or more of the enemies. So let me go to, let's try the medium guy here. Variable, let's add, well, there it is right there. What in the world? It does have it at the object level. It's right there. Stopped as a Boolean, set to false. Let me try saving and closing out and see if that helps. Because that variable is not showing in the inspector at all, but it's clearly there. All right, let's double check it. Go to that enemy right here, variable, and stopped. That's the variable I'm checking. So let's double check my logic as well. Never hurts. All right. So enemy's distance is below, and the variable stopped is false. Log this method. So we know that this triggering is true, in which case it should stop, or it should change the variable of stopped to true, and then if vice versa, it should set it back to false. So basically once they're outside of that range. And I appreciate the hearts, thank you. I'm going to try setting this, disabling this. Let me see if that has any effect. Always like the hearts. And anyone who thinks that Sauron doesn't have a heart, if that were true, he wouldn't have given me this awesome mug. But these enemies here don't have a heart because they're not stopping like I want them to. They just keep walking past that water like they know it all. They're acting like they're a professional, as my son tells me. Let's go down to stopped. Stopped is the key word. right, so right here, the variable stopped of enemies is true, then stop the enemies. Okay. All right, I remember what I was going to do. Let's see if the variable shows up in the inspector. So spawn them in. I'll wait for them to cross the threshold there. All right, we've got one inside of the water, one past it, and the rest are before it. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find the enemies. Here they are. Not sure how easy it is to see for you all, but it should show up somewhere over here. So we've got bubble, being hit, ID, on fire, flame particles, frozen, has frozen particles, and freeze immune. And that's it. It's not showing me that variable. Which is, let me think. Maybe that's actually the wrong one. So let me try looking at... I need to look at enemy basic medium. That's the name I used right here. So it should be here now. Okay, there it is. So that one is false. That one is true. One of them is set to true. Yet now it's false. Okay, let's let it play out. So this big guy should be true right about now. So let's refresh. And that would be enemy basic large right here. Does he have this stopped variable? No, that's a backer one. Enemy basic large. Okay, stopped is true, yet he's continuing to move. So the variable is triggering the way it should, which is good. So I'm having an issue then with the movement behavior. How did I stop these? I have another event that stops the enemy, and that is on the ice tower. So I need to go up to where it says enemy and ice tower right about here. Change the variable frozen of enemy backers set to true. And then if that variable is true, oh, this is what I need to do then. Activate the behavior pathfinding of enemies. Let's try this. I think I found the problem here. So let me implement this real quick and then I'm going to take a break. So this is a situation of I'm not calling the correct event. So if, let me scroll down to enemy movement right here. Instead of stop enemies, let's try adding this. Activate pathfinding behavior of enemies set to no. And let's preview that. Boom. They're getting stuck on that water now. We have success, people. Mission accomplished. Corey just had to think about what he was doing. Alright. Sit tight and I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. So we got the water to work. So now when the enemies hit the water, they are effectively stopping. So next what I'm going to do is have the tower shoot one of these water objects, this little thing right here, shoot it out at an enemy. And then it's not going to last forever, of course. And once it goes away, the enemies should be free to continue moving. So let's try that. And I guess I can disable this barrier layer as well. Oh, we don't need to see that. And let's clear... I guess let's clear this. We know that that's working, so let me save. And all right, let's find the water tower. What do I actually name that thing? That would be water. Right about here. So let's see, we want to add under this parent event right here, if the number of water towers on the scene is greater than 0, then repeat for each one. So what we're going to do, and then also under if the tower's not frozen. So I'm going to add a sub event here, and that went somewhere. It went down here. So actually I don't want it there exactly. I want to pick the nearest enemy and add a sub event to that, which would be here. So I'm going to do, let's add a timer. It would be an object timer, a value of an object timer, and this would be water tower. Let's call it water barrier timer is greater than or equal to, and we'll just set it to like let's say 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds it'll shoot one of these things out, and that's when it's going to create the object. So I could like shoot it as a projectile. Lots of ways I could do this. It probably would look weird to move it though. I think I just need to create it under the enemy, and then maybe I can just like shoot a beam to show that it was projected over there or something like that. So let's just simply create it at the location of the enemy. So I'm going to copy this event down here, which is very similar. I'm going to create the object, water barrier, at the position, enemies.center x, center y. Let me double check this parent event. So this would be for the enemy backers. So let's change this a little bit. All right, so that should be at the location of the nearest enemy. And this actually needs to be something different as well. Okay, so and then I also need to start that timer for that to actually have an effect. So if the timer is 4 seconds, so we need to start that timer when the tower itself is created. So let's go up to that event. So we will start or reset the timer, water barrier timer. And I'm going to add, so that's rain down here. This, let me add a comment here. This would be water barrier. And we will reset that timer. So this would be start or reset an object timer of the water tower. Again, every 4 seconds. And the only other thing is to add an object timer to the water itself so that it deletes after a while. Otherwise, the enemies will be indefinitely stalled. So I need a generic check for this. It needs to not be part of any parent event other than maybe the scene, whether or not the scene is paused. So recurring scene updates right here. We will do if we have these water objects on the scene. And then under that we will do for each. So for each one of those, we will check an object timer. How long do we want it to live? I mean, this is probably something that would be adjusted as you progress through the game, but for starters, it would be more like well, let me think. For testing purposes, the tower is going to shoot one out every 4 seconds. So we probably want this to only be, like, let's say 2 seconds. So we will say TTL is greater than or equal to 2. And we'll say OK. And then what we will do is delete the object. And then we need to actually start that timer as well. So back down, all the way down where that is created. So create the object, and then we will also start the timer TTL of the water barrier. Let's give this a test. Yeah, let's test it out. So I will need to add a water tower to the scene, call in the enemies, and then see how this works. And that's messed up because it's shooting way over there. Okay, so there's a little bit of a problem here. It's creating the upper corner at the center of the enemy, whereas what we really need is for it to be centered on the enemy. So I think I know what to do here. Let me double check something. If I open up one of these enemies, look at the points. So I put the origin point there. That's odd. Wonder why I set the origin point to the center. That seems undesirable. Edit the points. Let's try actually putting the origin at 0, 0. And hopefully this doesn't break anything, but if I need the center, I can just call the center. At least that makes sense. Okay, I now have origin points. Let's try, instead of setting that to the center of the enemy, let's put it at the origin point. So this would be just simply .x and .y. All right, and also Y is this is picking the enemy that's nearest. The rain was shooting way up to the coordinate 0, 0, which only happens if there's a bug. And I think this is why, right here, enemy backers. Hopefully that was it. Anyway, don't care too much about that one at the moment. Let's see if this worked. Create a water tower here, call in the enemies. So that did seem to fix the water. That still seems to be creating not where I want it to. So let's try something else. We could set this thing, we have a particular point on the enemies. Edit the points. We have a front point. I think that they all have this front point. Why don't we just create it there? And not only will I create it there, which it'll put it out in front of them just a little bit, but then I will also, what do you think? For the y coordinate, it needs to be minus water barrier height divided by 2. Is that right? Water barrier. I'm trying to remember the syntax here. Water barrier, I think it's dot height. Yeah, water barrier dot height parentheses divided by 2. Let's try that. Wow, I am not even sure which enemy it's trying to target there. That is kind of nuts. Okay, maybe I don't like using that particular point. Maybe center would be better. So we'll still do center Y minus that. Okay, let's test this. We're gonna get this working here. We just need the water to spawn at the correct location. So set up a tower here, select the water, send in the enemies. Let's see where it spawns. So it's way down here. Which is still not ideal. I don't even know what this is shooting at. That is really odd. Just double checking my points here. They should all have 3 points. Okay, so far that one's good. Good. A small one here. And the tiny one. All right, so right here I told it to create the water barrier at the position of the enemy center X and center Y minus half of the water height. So that should minus anything would move it higher up on the base layer. But weirdly, it seems to be slightly under the enemy. And I think that's because I might actually need to do minus on the X axis as well. So instead of height, though, that would be width. I still don't think that's going to get it quite where I want it, and also not sure why the water is shooting wherever it's shooting. So right there. With that being the case, I could even just not do the divided by 2, see if that makes it any better. And if this doesn't look good, I'm going to make the backer sprite opaque so I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, yeah. Let's do that. So now, at least for one of them, maybe the medium enemy, because I think I told it right about here, set the opacity to 0. Let's set it to 255. And let's also, just for testing purposes, only spawn that type of enemy. So that should be 1, 2, 3, enemy number 2. And let's test this one. Now we'll see the actual sprite object. It'll be visible. It'll be red. Okay, so this might have something to do with the points that I just changed. So now you can see that they're offset. And the game hates it when I pause it. I'm losing my frames. So it's offset, which I know how to fix that. But this thing is now spawning. The top left corner of the water is spawning at nearly the center of the red circle. Whereas I actually want that to be spawning at the origin of the red circle, which would be the top left. So that explains why it's so far off of the shadow part. Why is it so far to the bottom right of the red thing, though? That's the question. Scroll back down here. Right here. Create the object at the position, center. Okay, so we don't want it at the center. Let's just do .x and .y. And give that a test. Should be making progress here. Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's still kind of behind the enemy. And it's obviously not really stopping the enemy either. I could fix that too by increasing the range. But I'll do that once I fix the location. So it's creating at the enemy, at the location of the enemy position X, which is the top left coordinate of the enemy, and then minus the water's width. So that should put it further to the left. But it doesn't seem to be doing much for me. Let me try just not even bothering with that, because it kind of depends on the direction the enemy's walking as well. So if they're walking to the right, that wouldn't really look good. That would make it worse. Then I think all right, so the particle emitter that is stuck to that backer sprite, let me revisit my points here real quick. So we've got, so I think this is the point at which the shade, the particle emitter is located. Somewhere right up here at 0, 0 of this red circle. And I don't like that. So create object, and then create this object. So I think it just has to do with the way the red circle and the particle emitter are originally spawned. There's probably a way I could, I don't know if it's really a band-aid, but let me try something here. I'm going to try shifting it when it's created. I'm going to try shifting it to the left and upward by half of its height and half of its width and see if that does anything for me. Okay, and let's give that a test. Summon in the tower, send in the enemies. So, that looks like it was too much, but the water's working now. It seems to be spawning more on top of the enemy, which is in fact stopping the enemies. Let me see here. Let's reset that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's weird. It is like way out in front. That seems to be progress, but it's too far. Okay, let me test it. I moved one event around. Let me just test that. It shouldn't have changed anything. Just want to make sure, and then I will update some stuff after. Okay, so it seems to be directly to the left now. The height is fine. So I changed the position of the red circle from, well, I changed it to its current X position minus half of its own width. It's acting like it doesn't need to be subtracted at all. So let's see what happens if I get rid of that. It'd be acting. I once did an honor guard ceremony in the town of Acton, California. Okay, so yeah, it's odd, isn't it? It's not quite. It's not happy with that. I think I know why. Because the sprite is actually bigger than meets the eye. So that's the problem. I'm just getting my sizing wrong because I was forgetting. The sprite has a width. What is the width? Like 125? It is, yeah, 125. So the visible part only goes from 0 to 49, so it's 50 pixels. Man, that is kind of annoying because I would have to hard code something here. All because I moved 1 point. I fixed one bug and I made a bigger one. So I have a decision to make here. Have a decision to make here. So if I were to hard code this, it would be minus, let's see, if the visible part is 50, what do we want? Half of that? Just to try to center it on the enemy that it hits. Seems about right. Just heard an animal outside. That seems about right. Now I'm seeing a different bug I need to work on, which is that the enemy is not unfreezing. So that worked in terms of the positioning. It worked all right. But I think I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that. I could just do this, but I would need to do it manually for every enemy, and I don't like that. Let me double check something here. So this one is, again, that's 130 by 50, so all right, well, I guess I can do this. All right, so here for the large one, I will paste in this event. I'll change the position. That should be about the same actually. And then let me check for the small one. That is also 50. How is it the same size? I don't know, but it is. All right, save that. Let's double check the tiny one. Same thing. At least it's the same size. That makes it a little more convenient for myself. And while I am adding extra events in here, which is not particularly clean, I restored the origin point of the object, of the group of objects, which will make certain calls more straightforward in the future. So there's that. All right, what else do we have here? Change the position of, we have the specialty enemies, like the ice enemy. So let's change that position. And what is the size on that guy? That would be same thing. And I just realized one other thing I need to fix on each of these. There's always something else. Okay. Okay, that one stays medium, and then next I need small one. We're going to set this to enemy backer small. And then again right here. And this tiny guy. Okay, making progress. We're getting there, people. Last, but certainly not least, is this shielder guy. We need to add the event in for that. So we create the object and then change the position here. So this would be for the shielder. Like that. Let me double check that one too. Let me check the size. Should be the same. It is. Okay. That should be good. Let's run another test here. Oh, I need to allow this to spawn all enemy types as well. So anywhere from, I guess, 0 to 5. Okay, and then I guess for this troubleshooting, one other thing I need to do is change the opacity of everything. So let's see, change the opacity to 50 on that guy. Maybe set it to 100. Just want to see where these things are spawning relative to their particle emitter. Okay, run one more test here. Okay, that one messed up. Most of these look all right, but one of those messed up. It was that really fast one. What is going on with that? It's kind of odd. Okay, well, I'll fix that one soon enough. What I do want to do is change the radius of the water barrier and how near the enemies need to be before they get held back by it. So it's currently set to 20 pixels. Let's update that to 50 pixels and run another test here and see how it looks. So set the water tower, spawn the enemies. Okay, it's stopping them. Now they're kind of permanently getting stopped, which is, again, not ideal. That one made it past. That seems to be separated from that guy right there. Which is pretty odd, but so two bugs here. One is those tiny enemies. Again, it looks like the enemies getting split into two. Secondly, the boolean's not being reset, so I do need to do that. This should be 50. Okay, that might have... If the enemy is not below 50 pixels, change the variable to back to false. Okay, and then what the other part I want to look at is enemy movement down here. All right, and then I think up here again. And I can reactivate the pathfinding behavior. Let's try this. So we're hoping that they will continue to be stalled by the water. And then when the water goes away, they should continue to move. But they're not. So here we can see if the variable stopped of enemies is false, then move the enemies to the end. One of these has got to do the trick. I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to look at the inspector and see if the variable itself is being changed. It's killing my FPS here. Yeah, so the Boolean is not being reset, which is kind of odd. I might know why. I think I know. Yeah, right here. So okay, I'm going to move this event completely out from this section, and it just needs to be a sub event here up above. That should do the trick. So we could say, we could do an OR event here. We're going to say if one of these conditions is true. One, if enemy's distance to the water barrier is below 50 pixels. Or if there are no water barriers. And then also if the variable stopped is true, then we're going to change that back to false and reactivate the path finding of the enemies. Let's give that a shot. All right, success. Mission accomplished, people. We got there. So it's not pretty, but it's functional, and that gives me something to work with. So lots of ideas. You know, we could always increase the size of the water object, increase the duration. Of course, multiple towers is going to add multiple water barriers and that kind of thing. So, progress. All right. Well, I am going to call it a wrap for the night. I know it's Friday night. A lot of people are out doing things, enjoying themselves. I am going to recover for the weekend. So, I'll probably be streaming again. So, until next time, you all have a good evening. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have fewer bugs than I do. Thanks.